My name is Litile, and I'm a campaigner at Open Secrets, and I welcome you to this event. So on the 30th of January in 2024, Open Secrets hosted a people's hearing. At this hearing, we had over 129 participants and over 20 organizations, of whom are here today. One of the cornerstones of last year's people's hearing was that it underscored the need for a people's hearing forum for people, for communities and activists to come together and build solidarity around the climate justice, and put together ideas around what to do and how to fight energy profiteers. So in recognizing the need for providing a forum for activists and communities to meet, we decided to have a companion hearing, which is why we are here today. So it's a follow-up to the hearing that we had in 2024. So this year's hearing is titled The People's Hearing on Energy Profiteers, We Can't See the Sunset. It is a platform for art, activism, and accountability.
Hi everyone, thank you so much for coming and for your support. Like Khonolo said, I'm Shakila Ismail. I'm a campaigner at Open Secrets. In the bags you've received, you'll find our latest publication, which is the We Can't See the Sunset zine that I worked on alongside Mamelo Musiana, our head of campaigns. The zine was genuinely a love letter to last year's People's Hearing, particularly to all the speakers that shared both their personal and community struggles with us and our audience. We wanted to commemorate them and their messages with as much care and creativity as we could, because that is frankly the least that they deserve. We also wanted this publication to be accessible and for it to be visually engaging for our audience. In understanding what Maya from SAFC said last year, referring to it as the polycrisis, where climate change has worsened every social and economic issue imaginable, we have tried to include testimonies that spoke to various issues across the country. In the zine, we listened to those in Mpumalanga, like Mishak from MACUA, whose communities suffer from illness, lack of resources, and poverty at the hands of large fossil fuel corporations and the government. To those living here in townships in Cape Town, where communities are denied electricity, but labeled criminals for wanting what they rightfully deserved, as testified by Sipokazi from Project 90 by 2030. We Can't See the Sunset draws its name from Mapule's testimony, sharing that the never-ending smoke and smog reaches from the mines to the communities living next to them, to the skies above them. In Amahleleni, Mapule said, "You can't see the sunset." This was also noted by our judges, who listened to the testimonies as a powerful statement that encompassed all of the testimonies. The judges' report is included in the zine, which includes part of last year's speech at the People's Hearing and the recommendations for civil society going forward. For Mamelo and I, one of the most important recommendations is that solidarity is key, a true reflection of what the People's Hearings should be and what each of the organizations live by. Each and every one of them are fighting for a future that the fossil fuel industry is taking away for a profit. Renisa from Groundwork asked to look critically at what a just transition looks like. For her, this meant women's empowerment, sustainable job creation, equity, and dignity. For us, which is also reflected in our zine, this also looks like solar punk, an aesthetic movement that centers green aesthetics, eco-socialism, and decolonialism. We included collages from our solar punk event last year, where we turned fossil fuel industry adverts into art and signs of protest. That event and the zine hoped to put the punk back in solar punk by advocating for anti-capitalism and holding the powerful accountable for the atrocities that they commit. While this section is light-hearted in nature, it is just one attempt at pushing for what Pelani from Khutala Environmental Group referred to as a just transition that is just for its people. This zine is our hopes in the future and our belief in community organizations made tangible. To the speakers and their organizations, MACUA, VEM, Project 90 by 2030, Groundwork, Khutala, Mseja, ACA, SAFC, and Green Connection, we are so grateful for your contributions, and we hope to have done justice to you as you continue to seek social, economic, and climate justice for us all. Thank you.
Amandla, viva community, viva. Phansi ngemining, phansi. Comrade, in short, my name is Meshaki Mbangula, National Coordinator of MACUA. Firstly, I will say that is where there is mining, when you go in there, you smell poverty, whilst the minerals are being looted, and we end up calling those people looting minerals as investors. To me, an investor is somebody who put money to make more money. It doesn't really go deep to take care of the communities that are there. I'm saying that because when we did research on audits regarding the beneficiations of communities, we found that is through SLPs, that is, it's a document that needs the mine to produce to make sure that his people benefit, whether through skill development, infrastructure, education, and health system, you know. But what we have found out, that is 98% of the mine failed to comply with that program or project that they were supposed to have done in that case. And what happened is that 80% of the land is owned by the elites, and they just are at about 8% in this country. And what we have seen is 80% of the people that are living here are communities, Black, Indians, colored communities. But most of them, they are living in periphery. That means they are living in the edge of their life. They don't benefit all these things. Why people are busy making noise, fighting, marching every day is because people want back the land, want back the minerals that were taken by these whites, Trump and them. As we can see, Trump is saving his whites back to America because we are fighting to correct the wrong things. So that tells us very seriously that we are facing with a serious problem. When you are correcting something and then there is a resistance by the Americans. But what I'm trying to say all in all is that we need more of this kind of like the Open Secret is doing to capacitate communities on their rights so that they can be able to challenge these capitalists. Because if we are not doing that, the coming generation is still going to suffer. If you go to where there's mining, one thing that you see is displacement. People are still forcefully removed. In Mkhalakwena, Limpopo, Mkopane, people are moved out of that place because of mining. In Mpangeni, whatever, those people are still facing that issue of people being displaced, and mining takes place and doesn't benefit the people. We know of Mamchangas who was killed in KZN, but nothing happened. Nobody's been taken to jail. And we have seen in many instances that is mining after mining, they don't rehabilitate. If somebody just come in and take minerals and doesn't repair the land, that somebody tells you very well that he was here to loot the minerals and leave the area like that. We have big areas that are not rehabilitated, and people are living with that problem of acid mine drainage. Water is polluted, air is polluted. And with that, we find a lot of people being sick. And being sick in this time where the government, the mines, doesn't really bring up the system or health, system very well. Everything in South Africa is declining. Health system goes down. Education, anything that happens. And what happened is mostly that is disturbing. If you have looked at the news yesterday, women unemployment rate goes to 46%, you know. Youth goes to what, 36%. That itself tells you that is the unemployment rate goes up. And if the unemployment rate goes up, inequality goes up. And what happens if there is inequality? We're facing issues of poverty. As we speak, we have a lot of mines that are coming up, mushrooming. But what happened in this case, we'll find that is very few people are benefiting for those mines. So it's very important, comrade, that is we capacitate communities around the issues, because mine take advantage of going to a community where they don't know about their rights, you know, the EIA processes, and start mining, promising people to get jobs and whatever. And after that, when they get in there, they forget about these people. So having the open secrets, having these sessions, it's very key, because we need to save South Africa. We need to save Africa. We need to save our people. We need to save our women, our kids, our coming generation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bra Mishak.
Morning, everyone. Morning, everyone. My name is Given Zulu, and I come from the province of the Rising Sun, Mpumalanga. Well, we are residing in what Minister Matashi is calling the coal belt, which is a place filled or rich with coal, and we are. I don't know whether it's a blessing or a curse, but we are giving light to the nation. You know, the whole nation is lighting up because of people in Mpumalanga. People in Mpumalanga are dying and are suffering. As Usese has said, the place was declared. We have the dirtiest air in the world in 2007 already. But now we are here in 2025 and nothing has been done about the air that we breathe in Mpumalanga. So, but what has been done is that there are still coal mines mushrooming around each and everywhere, because you will wake up today and there's a playing field. You will wake up tomorrow, there are trucks and they are coal. They are busy extracting coal. And what you'll find out after 12 months or 13 months, the trucks will be extracting the minerals, and then they will be upping and leaving behind a huge man-made mountains and open pits, you know, where those open pits end up being dead traps for animals, because we have animals grazing in the area. So, and those open pits will end up being dead traps for them, and also people, because as I said, the mine has just mushroomed around the community. So people are left with those unrehabilitated holes. So they get in there and then they fell in there, they die. You know, and also another thing, our town is very, very cold. So in winter, so yeah, we with the unrehabilitated mine, we have the issue of these zamazamas, artisanal miners. So they also come in there and then they see a place, an open place, and then with the hunger and the joblessness of the place, you know, they say, oh, we can go in there and find something, you know. That's why they go in there and then try to dig for the minerals themselves, and then tragedy happens because it's unsafe and it's unregulated. So those tragedies occurred like regularly around us, because the pits will end up falling to the person, you know. So most of the people are trapped there underground, you know, while going there trying to find the coal. They will end up getting trapped there underground. So yeah, that's one of the impacts that we do have. And then yeah, we do hear this word of just transition, but what we are witnessing with just transition, there is this thing of mining, they call it critical minerals, yeah, like the coal and the gas and the other renewables. You know, there is this company called Kinetico, and Rhino Oil and Gas. They are doing explorations of gas. So what happens is that they come in and then they dig the wells for the exploration. When they find there is gas or there is not gas, they just leave the well. They cover it with some metal piece and then they leave it. After some time, the metal piece will get rotten and then the gas will eventually escape there. So the people from around there, from Pixilangaga Isem municipality are suffering. It's a rural community there. They are suffering from that gas. They are inhaling that gas because that company came in there and then they did the exploration of the gas and then they left it there open like that. So people have been suffering for a long time, they are inhaling the gas and it's actually not good for them. So yeah, we are, as a country, we are going to this just transition, and we do need this just transition. As we see, the people of Mpumalanga are dying for a just transition. But now we have a new fight or a new struggle to fight because of they are saying we need gas to do the transition. But if the gas is not done properly, if the gas is done without free, prior, and informed consent of those communities living around there, so it becomes like the just transition will become unjust as well. So yeah, I think those are the major impacts that are coming. We do have the ones that are affecting us already of the coal and the unrehabilitated mines and the polluted air. But now when we are going to the just transition, we see we are still taking along the same devil because Siriti was doing coal, now has turned a new leaf saying they are Siriti green. So it's like the same profiteers from the coal mining industry to the renewable industry. So we are dealing with the same profiteers. So I think as communities, we need to come together because we are facing like similar fights or similar battles. So I think we need to come together and create a counterpower to this, because when you look at these corporations, they are all in one group or they're all formed apart. So I think as communities, we should come together and create counterpower. When we fight together as one. So yeah, thank you very much.
Why do you think it's so important to host a people's hearing on energy profiteers? And why is it so important to bring those issues to the people that are affected?
I think the reason that it's important to host a people's hearing and to hear the perspective of the people is because we're so often bombarded by profits and corporate nonsense. I think that the voices that we hear in the conversation are the voices that are most affected. I think that when you have conversations about energy, it can't just be the people who are profiting over energy, but it should be the people who are making use of it, the people who are affected in the production of it, the people who are producing it. It can't just be the higher ups in suits in offices that are profiting from this. Yeah, we don't have enough conversations about how job security does not equal a good life, an okay life. Like, if you take people's ability to live and live freely and live comfortably away, then what are we doing? Financial gain isn't the only, the only thing to look forward to in life. We need more than it. We need health. We need happiness. We need comfort. We need to be able to breathe using our lungs. Something as simple as, having bodily autonomy is important to having a life that's worth living. So just having a job that puts food on the table does very little. It scrapes the bottom of the bucket.
Good morning. My name is Mapule Mdluli. I'm from Emalahleni. As you can hear, the name Emalahleni means coal, city of coal. So we are surrounded by many mines, especially where I live, in Ezinambeni. There's a place called Ezinambeni. So basically we are surrounded by mines. But you can't even tell that we are surrounded by mines because the place, it smells of poverty. There's no infrastructure, there's nothing. So living in Emalahleni, it's actually a struggle. I was born in Limpopo, moved to Emalahleni in 2005 for greener pastures, as my parents said. But hey, we were wrong, very, very wrong. Because what has brought me, it was just that I started becoming sick. I couldn't become the fully functional teenager that I was supposed to be. Stopped running because I developed asthma and sinuses. So my life deteriorated from being a playful teenager to just a kid that's always indoors. So that affected my life very much. Even the health sector, they couldn't even help that much because when you go to the hospital, trying to find out what's wrong with you, they'll just give you allergics and say, go back home. Nothing is wrong with you. It's just a little bit of flu, that's what they'll tell you. But I started realizing that this is a big issue when my cousin, may his soul rest in peace, he passed away on Sunday because of asthma. So his health deteriorated much and much and much. We took him to the hospital. They couldn't help him. They gave him medication. We told them that he had problems breathing. They sent us home. When we got home, we took him back to the hospital. They didn't attend to him. When they did, it was a little bit too late. So we'll be laying him to rest this weekend. So Emalahleni has just brought me a lot of pain, that's what I would say. We don't actually see the sun rising. It's a dull place to be at. So this makes me very emotional talking about it because I also have a child and I can see that my child is starting to be sick as well. So this is more like it's affecting generations and generation and generation. So we need to start educating the community about what's happening. We must not just focus about getting jobs at the mines because that's how they close our eyes. They give you a job, you are happy, especially Eskom, Sasol, and Siriti, and Exaro. I wish they were here today to hear what I want to say to them. Giving people jobs and not being able to help them with their health, it's not helping them at all. You're destroying the earth. In the near future, the earth will become uninhabited to live in. We'll be wearing masks. You couldn't even go outside without breathing fresh air. That's where we are headed if we don't stand up and fight this. So, to me, the message I have for them is that they must start working with the community. They must, if they want to continue doing business, they must start working with the community and see how they can help the community because they are not helping the community at all. They are destroying the earth. The earth is being destroyed. If you live in Emalahleni, I think you guys know, around 5 o'clock, it's already, the sky is already cloudy. Even in winter is very, very worse. In winter, you can't even get out of the house without coughing. So it's very, very bad living in Emalahleni. So today I wanted to share my story about that. And I hope that we can rise up as we are doing now and fight it so that in the end of the day we can see the results and that we can tell our future kids that, okay, we fought for this. Because if we don't, trust me, the earth will be uninhabited, as I said. This is a big issue that we are facing. So, yeah, thank you.
Morning, everyone. I will just add and go to the question. My name is Womxndla. I'm from MLO in Mpumalanga. MLO is a heart of coal mining and is housing 5 of the coal-fired power station generation that are scheduled to be shut down. Our community and surrounding towns are rural and are subjects of energy poverty and lack to access and affordability to electricity, even though we generate 87% to South Africa. Our community has paid a heavy price with their lives through the pollution and the degradation, abandoned and dangerous environment without any recourse, even though the Highveld was declared the high priority area in 2007. The South African government and the politicians, parties, have been governing the country in a capitalist state which prioritized profit over people, which and always benefited the elite and the industry, this widening the gap of inequality and poverty as well as crisis in unemployment. Mpumalanga, especially our Hersibande region, has experienced the influx of unjust transition, pushed and forced by the just transition projects such as oil and gas exploration, and unjust transition of commodity closure is preference of green hydrogen and ammonia development, which will further increase landlessness and water competitors with the host farm dwellers. South Africa consumes 48% of electricity by industries, followed by 22% combined by residents areas who are mainly the middle and upper class. In 2023 was the hottest year ever recorded. On the other side, fuel consumption and rising. In fact, the big 5 companies, Chivarani, Shell, BP, and the Siriti, made $122 billion in profit, which is more than 2 trillion rands. The high cost of living has increased dramatically in the past 10 years. And the average national electricity price has risen into 190% since 2014, meaning Eskom customers has experienced a direct increase of 180% in bills the past 10 years, according to the CSIR, making affordability a mountain. Khutala Environmental Movement over the years played very significant role to embark, mobilize, educate, and to implement action aiming to improve social condition of the people and the environment performance. More importantly, to build counterpower for vulnerable communities on climate change. Nomzamo Agri-Village, a New Hope village in Emelo under the banner of Khutala and Womxndla Development Program we restricted Matala mine and repurpose the land and give it back to the community members who were victimized by 2016 December flooded. The area was repurposed agri-village, and human settlement for more than 500 families. Thank you.
My name's MACUA. I'm the Director for Southern Africa of Natural Justice. I mean, I think accountability in the broader sense is, if we're listening to the testimonies of people as we heard today and as we heard at the hearings, of how they're impacting on people's health, how they're actually causing death and destruction, both to people and the environment, that they should pay the cost of that, because, you know, these companies, obviously what they do is they privatize all the profits from their activities and then they externalize the costs. So the costs are borne at community level. You know, it's borne by children who are developing respiratory diseases at a young age. It's borne by people dying early deaths. It's borne by communities who lose their livelihoods. You know, I think, and so I think we would be looking at monetary compensation, but I think an important sort of aspect of this is what one of the witnesses said today was that, you know, we need to go beyond sort of rehabilitation, right? I think the idea of restoration, the restoration of the land, the restoration of the rivers, of the air, the revitalization of, you know, the areas in which communities live. I think that's quite an important concept. And I think they need to pay reparations, because what has been done to these communities represents a profound injustice.
So we're going to move to the documentary screening, but before doing that, we'll have Cleveland, who was directing the documentary, just to give us an introduction of what to expect. So Cleveland, if you please come to the stage, give him a warm welcome.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. Yes, thank you so much for being here today. We can't see the sunset. That is the title, working title of the documentary. And what you're about to watch, in my opinion, is more than just a documentary. It's a testimony as well, and a call to conscience. In January 2024, Open Secrets held the People's Hearing on Energy Profiteers Part 1. It was a space similar to this, where people affected by South Africa's energy and climate crisis could speak out in community and be heard. There's power in the ability to speak, and I think there's healing in the ability to speak as well. At the time when prophets often come before people, this hearing centered the real stories of pain, struggle, and resistance, stories from the communities left in the dark and in the dust. This film builds on that specific moment. It brings together archival footage from the People's Hearing of 2024, the powerful poetry of Mine, Mine, Mine by Uhuru Falafafa, and key findings from our investigative report, Who Has the Power? You also see a dream sequence throughout the film, a candle in the dark, a dancer moving through struggle. This is a symbol of resilience, of light that refuses to go out, just like the people and the witnesses and the communities who continue to fight for justice. This is a story told through memory as a catalyst for justice, through movement and through testimony. And one thing I've learned while doing this documentary is what happens to the land happens to the body. And we hope that this documentary moves you as much as it moves us. Thank you.
Ferociously, with weapons. And who does it fight?
This is an urgent problem, and specifically in the context of South Africa, it remains important because the effects of the climate crisis are going to be felt disproportionately by those.
Thank you very much, everyone. So I'll just call the team that contributed to the documentary up to the stage just for them to take us through, what inspired the production.
My name is Emily Friedman. So I came here today because I'm quite interested in discourse around a just energy transition, because I think it's really topical. And I saw that this project was quite there were multiple mediums, there were zines, there was a documentary. I'm very interested in the power of art and text to kind of educate and advocate. So yeah, I came and it didn't disappoint at all.
So who I am is Yana Swanepoel. We've learned about necropolitics and sort of the politics in which people are completely erased by these corporations and by these projects in which people are just deemed zombies already and just deemed disposable life. And that's so clear here. It's happening right in our backyard. We think it's so distant from us, but it's not. And I think that I agree with Emily about the idea of how art speaks to make this idea and these kind of complex concepts a lot more accessible and spread the word. And as one of the speakers said, make people angry, because that's what we really need. And I thought that the mixture of a documentary with a dream sequence was very, very smart, because it balanced emotion and facts. And I really, really appreciated that. And I thought that I felt it, but I also saw the damage.
Good morning, everyone. Sanbonani. Oh, okay. My name is Bongile Zwane. I come from Carolina, a small town from Mpumalanga province. Carolina is a very small town with 22 operating mining surrounding, and another one that just opened, I think about 2 months ago. Carolina being a small town, as a matter of fact, let me say first, I'm disappointed by the empty seats that I'm seeing labeled here, because I think that today would have been a good day to actually express to actually talk about our emotions and express the pain that we are feeling from the communities where we're coming from. Most of the comrades have actually spoke about most of the issues that we have coming from mining affected communities. So as Womxndla, we took an initiative to do a feminist report research. I have one with me here. So this research focuses mostly on the community of Womxndla and surrounding farms. We have found that in the 10 years of mining, Carolina still has one of the highest economic oppression towards women, because in about, out of 10, we can say 2% of women are working in Carolina. This report research actually talks about the effect of climate change and also gender-based violence towards women in our community. Because we cannot talk about mining and not talk about gender-based violence. Mining is the same companies that bring people from outside, the very same people that affect, or rather that abuses our women and children within our communities because of poverty. We can all agree that if most women are not working, who do we depend on? Don't we depend on the men that are working on the mines? Are we together? Yes, so at that makes us more vulnerable to those men. And we can also say that within the climate change and within the just transition and within everything that is happening, gender-based violence is still a pandemic in this country. So this report clearly states that women are mostly affected and they are being ignored. At this point, we can agree that women are actually the ones who uses coal as a source of energy more. Coming from local communities like us, we use coal stove most of the time, which is a source of heat, which is how we cook. So coal has been one of the resources that we need in our mining communities. This report also tells us how much mining communities have ignored our cries throughout the years. Yes, we've been activists. Yes, we've tried to push. And now the government is introducing the just transition. The question is, how are women involved in the just transition? Moving toward the just transition, what does it mean to us as Black women in particular? How will we grow with this just transition? Because as we speak now, one of the excuses is that women cannot be employed in the mining sector because one of the machines that they're using actually affect the production system of a woman. So in this just transition, or moving towards the just transition, will women be involved more? Will the voices of local communities be involved more? And what do we want from that? As we speak now, there's an introduction of solar powers, right? Introduction of solar powers. Who actually is manufacturing those solar powers? Is it, do we benefit as communities? But we're moving towards the just transition, and it's more like, yes, we're having consultations with the PCC, with the government, but we are not stopping. We are moving, and that's the truth. In some areas, people are losing jobs because now technology has taken over. Are we together? Oh, I'm touching some. Okay, I think if I continue talking, I will overlap. But one of the questions that I want to bring to you in the house is that, okay, we want to move from mining coal, and we want to move into greener energy. At this point, most of us, or rather through this research, we have found out that most of the women cry that, okay, most of the household, we work, or rather the men, they work in mining companies. So if the men loses their jobs there, what's gonna happen then? Will we be able to survive? There was also a view of, no, we can move into living through agricultural project. And the question was, but we do not have the land. So what happens then? My questions to the house that if we really want to move into the just transition, which according to the government is a better picture, where do we start? How do we start? And how do we make sure that everyone is involved, not only as women and men, but also as the queer community? How will we all be involved equally? I'm speaking about equally and equity. It's important that we look at the bigger picture in terms of how do we address corruption. At this point, we cry about gender-based violence cases not being taken seriously in the police station. At this point, we talk about women having to give out their bodies in order to get jobs. This is the same mining spaces or same mining companies that come into our local communities, but still we as host communities have to suffer from that. These are the questions, or rather these are the problems that we first have to solve as host communities before we can move into something bigger than us. Because we cannot ignore the fact that most of us here have experienced oppression, discrimination, one way or the other. Most of us here can say that I'm an activist because where I come from, this and this and this is happening.
So in this session, we're just going to open the discussion to everyone to ask questions and have comments. And then in starting, I think I'll ask my question that has been bugging me all morning, and I just maybe wanted someone who can be able to answer this. It's around mining rehabilitation. So I just wanted to know, what is the responsibilities of these companies in terms of closing? Is the legislation that, if someone knows, is the legislation that compels them to close these mines? Where are we with that? And other avenues. Does anyone have an answer to this question?
Hello everyone, my name is Dutando and I'm a lawyer with Open Secrets. Hi. I wanted to earlier talk about this, the question of rehabilitation. In a past life, I used to work with / for mining companies, and so I can tell you now, at least from the perspective of the mines themselves, yes, we all know that they have financial provisioning set aside for rehabilitation at the end of the mine's life. The DMRE has the power not only to issue directives to say that if they haven't complied with their rehabilitation plans, that they're in contravention of their mining right or their prospecting right, whatever the thing is, and potentially even do so with criminal liability. But the DMRE doesn't do that, DFFE doesn't do that. I think they're honestly scared of what it means to put pressure on the mining companies at that stage, especially because it's not profitable for them to rehabilitate. They've already done the extraction, they've already done the economic part. But the other thing that we also forget is, and isn't really talked about, is that the state itself has the resources to rehabilitate and claim the funds back from the mining company if they have failed to comply with their own rehabilitation plans. So there's a massive gap that's happening there where the state is not fulfilling its own duties to the people, on top of the fact that they're not enforcing the legislation that requires mines to rehabilitate. But the last point, I think, which goes to what you've said, Shirley, is in a perfect world, yes, rehabilitation would return the land back to the state that it was in prior to whatever the activity was. And that is supposed to be what underlies the principles under environmental law legislation and whatever, but that's not what happens. And factually, it's not possible. And as a policy decision, that's not what government expects. They don't expect the land to be returned back to the state that it was. And the mining companies, in the way that they do their rehabilitation plans, don't plan for it to be returned that way either. And that's legal, unfortunately. Yeah, I think those are just the points I wanted to highlight. Thank you.
Yeah, well, thanks a lot for raising those points. But on top of that, I think it also lies with the government, because I think once a mining company has done a rehabilitation, the only thing that the government is doing for that company is issuing a closure certificate to say, no, we've done rehabilitation for this mine. But what they are not doing is that they are not holding the company accountable for mines, for previous mines that were not rehabilitated. So I think the issue of rehabilitation lies with the government, because I think if company X has not done rehabilitation to its previous land, it shouldn't be granted a permit to do degradation or to do mining in another land. So yeah, I think it's the government, or maybe if a mining company has a closure certificate, I think that should maybe give the company some incentive to say, no, you are doing a good job, here's a pat on the back from the government, you know. But I think it's as it is, you know, whether you do it or you don't do it, the government doesn't care. So yeah, I think it's mostly it lies with the government. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. It's a comment and a question regarding what we've spoken about, with rehabilitating mines. And I think also to go back to the question of how do we compel governments, corporations to be in the room with us. I think it's difficult to sit here to listen and watch and take in the fact that the loss of human life is not enough, that you can put your body on the line, protest, you're killed, you can do your job, you're still killed. So I think it's very difficult to kind of take that in this context. And, they've taken land, the oceans, lives. It's like, what is enough? The bloodletting just doesn't stop. And my question, I guess, to the people in the room is, how do we ensure that, talking to community, because what has happened is having companies show that they have funds to rehabilitate the land once the mine has reached the end of its life, that's a tick box exercise. Bramishak just said 6,000 abandoned mines, no consequences. So even if there is, you've shown here's the funds so we can rehabilitate, you still don't do that. You go into communities, you consult, there's nothing changes even though you've consulted with the communities. Corporations, they don't care. And my question, I guess, is how do we compel, even though there are laws, like Lutando just spoke to the fact that there are laws, how do we actually ensure that these aren't just tick box exercises with lives lost at the end of the day, and then that's just what it is? How do we ensure that corporations, are compelled to account? Like, how do we hold government accountable if they're going to ignore us, if they're going to just, that's my question.
I want to say thanks to the panel that shared also about the areas, the story in the community. In our communities, we don't have these stories about what is happening with the mining and things. It's just on the TV. It's just a few sentences that they are sharing. And I think if there should be more education and information on that, to take it also in communities, because in Cape Town, we're also going through a lot of things in our own way. We don't have the mines here, but we have our own things here. But I think those stories needs to be told, and education should happen within communities. And I want to check also with comrades, what is the gains in some of these communities? You say there's only one community that were prospering through all the 6,000 minings that's there. So is there a comparison that you've also given to government to show that we're talking about the economy that's not working, but here's something that is working? Why can't it work for all the community so everybody can prosper from that community. And we can see also that as women that is facing the brunt of all these things, and that is very silent when things are being explained within communities. I can still remember there was an incident of the mines also, where some of the women was saying also that, we have our men here in the mines, but the wives are at home. And when you hear the stories also about them, they also talk about how they also suffering in a different way because mines are not looking after those ones there. So there should be some form of engagement with government, not just from the areas where the mines are, but it should be a collective thing because, comrades, we can't fight in isolation. Each mine are fighting on their own. There should be a collaboration and bringing those mines together. What areas where there's no mines, then it should be, we all need to fight together to gain something, because when we look at land, they always tell us there's no land, but if you hear how many lands is just laying there, nothing is happening, something needs to be done. Thanks, comrades.
I had a question for Butemba about the mining happening in Danhauser. I wanted to, since you said it started 2019, so I wanted to know what was the consultation process like when, because they have to consult and all of those things before they start mining. So what was that process like, and what are some of the lessons that we can draw from that, when we think about new mining rights or new mining developments? Because I think the point you made about all of us coming together on this issue, it really stuck with me. What would happen if every single community in South Africa said we don't want mines operating anymore? And where we are in positions to be able to voice those things and maybe share more information around, like, don't believe the mines when they say they're going to give you umsebenzi. Don't believe them when they say they're going to build schools. Don't believe them when they say they're going to develop the community, because here's the evidence. Has there ever been a community in South Africa that was improved because of mines? I'm genuinely asking, I don't know. So I wanted to just ask about those reflections. Thank you.
Pertinent questions, Lutando. Very important.
Okay, thank you very much for raising that question. Actually, that is where all problems started. The Kikwezi mine came and consulted in 2012. The problem there was people were not ready. We didn't know anything about mining, our rights, or we were not sure. So they came and do improper consultation. They buzzed people, do a consultation, which we think it wasn't fair. So people were getting inside, signing in attendance registers. They didn't know what that meant. So that is where it all started. And again, the chiefs, the kings, the landowners, that time they were consulted indirect. So that is where we think we actually need to learn from that going forward. That we need to be sure, we need to teach people what community consultation is and how we as communities should prepare ourselves when the mine comes. What questions we should ask environmentally and human rights issues. By saying we all need to work together on this, we need to empower our communities back home, especially where mining are still proposing to mine. That's what I can say for now.
Thank you very much. Comrades, we've come to the end of our gathering. Sad as it is, we need to end. Thank you so much to every single person for being here. We don't take your time for granted, and I hope this has been, informative, and incredible for you, being here with us and hearing personal stories and experiences of the comrades that came all the way from Mpumalanga and KZN to share and be with us today. Thank you. Can you please give them a round of applause, please?